rollout. I am Lindsay.
And I'm Genevieve Marie. Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
All right. So before we get into why we're here, let's jump into a little news for the day. There was a lot of news this week, but we're not going to talk about some of it because people have opinions about I don't know, a new D&D movie that's coming out and some of the casting involved. But that's okay. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about other things,
I
which are
can't
just
even
as
believe
exciting.
don't even say it. So, the piece of news that I have today is absolutely wonderful and special. And we know that I was on the hype train of Cyberpunk 2077 and how it so spectacularly fell apart the first week of its launch. Uh, but one of the things that happened that I am just tickled pink about is a glitch. Again, we're going to talk about glitches.
Yeah, we definitely are starting a segment on this now. I feel like just video game glitches.
I couldn't find another glitch to give Lindsay so she can do her bit, but this one is amazing. So in the character builder, if you can choose to have genitalia for your character, and you can choose the size of it, the shape, all of that stuff. But after you're done making your highly detailed genitalia, once you put the clothes on, you're not done with your special bits because the penises hang out of the pants or whatever it is you're wearing. So you're walking around with your penis out, but also let's not leave the girls out either, because you can also have boobies sticking out too. Like if you can do a Regina George with your boobs hanging out. So a big leap for gender and gender identity, and a giant leap for nudists.
There we go. You know what? All of
I'm
our dreams have been realized.
It's great. The game, the glitches, the return issues.
Turn issues.
Maybe not so great, but this is the one thing that I read and was just so
it's like you can't make this up. You're like, and then it makes you wonder though, like, is this an accident, or was there a game dev that was like,
no,
I don't see any QA people. Let's just see if we can get this through.
They were probably just angry that they had to do all that overtime. I mean,
right.
If I could get it through, I would. I'm just so excited that I can be the middle school me and actually talk about penises and boobies on a live chat. So
there you go. And in a I guess kind of not remotely related. So Vampire the Masquerade has a new companion out, which is free to download. So for those of you who don't know, we are going to be streaming a Fabled After Dark Vampire the Masquerade game here Friday at 8:00. But there is a new companion. And it's going to add 3 new vampire clans. It's going to have new disciplines for those clans. It's going to be expanding the rules and the role-playing information for ghouls and mortals. It's going to have details on each clan's view on vampire courtiers. There's new merits. And so this is a companion to the 5th edition game, but I was so excited to see that this is free to download. So for all you vampire fans out there, check this out. And for everyone who's playing on Friday, maybe you re-roll a new character. I don't know. We'll see. All right. So today we are going to be talking about geeky businesses, and we are so excited with our guest today. We have Donna Ricci, who is the co-owner of Geeky Teas, which is an amazing game store here in Burbank, Los Angeles, which I love. And
we also have Bernie Bregman, who does some amazing pop-up events around Los Angeles, including the most famous club cosplay. He is the Geek Gatsby, an amazing MC for all things geek nerd, and I just love it. Welcome, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. How about Donna? You just Donna, start us off. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and
about me. Okay. I actually wasn't prepared for this one.
You said you were a nerd Barbie, which I feel like needs explanation.
Sure. I got the nickname Goth Barbie back when I used to model, because I modeled for gothic clothing companies, and but I've always been like the perky entrepreneur one. So someone said, you can do anything like Barbie, and I was like, I like that. So I've been a modeling agency for weirdos back before they were weirdos, like tattooed, pierced punk people. I have worked as a vet tech, and I used to have a steampunk clothing company, the first brick and mortar in the country, called Clockwork Couture. And
I've bought from you before. Oh my God.
Hopefully I screw up your order.
I don't mean to do like the accusatory finger, but this is such, it blows my mind. That's insane. Back when there was nothing out there for steampunk fashion, you guys were the thing. That's where I bought my stuff. Thank you very much.
Did you come in store, or we're totally getting off?
No, online.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the online store. I grew up in San Diego, but thank you. You've made my high school days very fun and interesting.
Thanks. So that's and the latest iteration of my life is Geeky Teas and Games. I founded this about 5.5 years ago, and I've just started my own board game show called Bad Board Games and Booze, and I do now a project called I Need a Healer, where I'm developing a system for D&D so that licensed mental health care professionals can use it in order to help clients through past trauma, through communication problems, relationships, even roommates. So I'm actually pretty happy with my life right now, and I'm hoping that this Barbie stays for a while.
I have to know, is there a parody of Bonnie Tyler's I Need a Hero to go along with I Need a Healer?
I need a hero.
Bernie, this is up to you. This is now, I've given you your quest. You chose it yourself, but now you have a quest.
Of quests and Bonnie's, I would then like take this and go to Bonnie Gordon of the Library Bards. And
of course. My other favorite, Ginger. Yeah, I love Bonnie. All right, well.
Okay, so
you brought it up.
Yeah.
This is on you, pal.
It'll happen.
Yeah, okay.
All right, awesome. Bernie, tell us a little bit about all the amazing things you do.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So like I've always been a strong like operator in business circle, retail and restaurants, like district and regional leadership. So as the geek space became much more than all of us hanging out on IRC and message boards, I saw, not so much, I didn't view it as an opportunity like for me to do something, but an opportunity of needs that needed to be filled. And as stuff started to take form, so, much like Donna's experience, like all we used to have was, t-shirts at Hot Topic. And now we have entire fashion lines and fashion stores and amazing places like hers, and all that kind of stuff. And her universe and all that is an amazing thing now. I saw a similar need in the event space and an ability to bring it to a level that I think people were just maybe afraid to try. And so it started with doing midnight movie screenings specifically tailored towards kind of our people. I called them Nerds Like Us, and I took over this gorgeous old Egyptian themed deco art house theater in Hollywood, the Vista, and started doing, midnight screenings of Goonies and Ghostbusters, Back to the Future and all that, but adding kind of an event level to it. So having an Ecto One and all the Ghostbuster guys out there for fans to come hang out with, or having the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle van and the guys that do the turtle stuff, like to that really, really high level. And then nightlife kind of came calling, and we don't have nerd nightlife. And if you think of nerds in a nightclub, like they're in a corner on their cell phone, like I don't really belong maybe, but they all like that experience and they want to have a place where they belong. So if you create one that is populated by all of the same kind of people, recipe for an amazing time. And I started doing initially club cosplay, and then there were limitations there and it just wasn't the right partnership. And then Club Comic-Con, and then it evolved into what I have now, which is Experience Level Entertainment, or XLE Productions. We take over the best nightclubs in San Diego during Comic-Con, and we do 3 to 4 nights of fully immersive themes, different themes, back to back to back nights where we flip the whole venue. So one night it's Ready Player One, the next night it's Stranger Things, the next night it's Guardians of the Galaxy, all at the same spot. And so stuff like that. And we've done that up here in LA. We've done that on the East Coast. So that's kind of between that. I mean, we do everything from launches to film premieres and things like that. And again, experience, right? Everyone wants more than just, we show up and there's a themed backdrop. Like, right. You know, it's got to go to that next level. We deserve that next level. We deserve to like be in those worlds that we love. And so that's what we love creating. But at the same time, really taking like everything that can go to another level, let's take it to that other level. So whether it's the decor, the set design, the world building, whether it's the themed people and the performers and things like that. And we'll get celebrities to come in and stuff too, people that are like kind of appropriate to the theme. But it's really more about creating that in-world experience for people. But that also includes how we treat each other, respect and things like that. So how do you do a nightclub experience, but take into account, you know, post 2016 sensibilities and understanding of different people's experiences, and how do you take that to another level? So we have a ton of things that address kind of all of that, and you know, we're always evolving, always getting better. There's always another level to go to, and there's always more talent that can be brought that give you a fresh perspective. So all of that is super important to us.
I love that. That's amazing.
Bernie, I have just a small question. How are you old enough to know what IRC is?
Right? I was just wondering that.
I'm a little older than I probably look, but I definitely did some IIRC in the late 90s. So, yep, Usenet news groups, baby. Yeah. I had a live journal too. To hell with that crap.
Oh my gosh.
Live journal is a cesspool.
I'm sure it is.
Who thought that was a good idea? Share our innermost thoughts, especially about like our friends and stuff, like just to vent, because you should have that in a journal, but let them read it. Oh my God.
You know, apparently there's no filters anymore. So Donna, you've done a lot of things like in the geek sphere. I mean, obviously, you know, you've done the modeling and you've done your cosplay, and now you own a brick and mortar business.
Yeah.
I mean, was that always the end goal? Like, what made you decide or just end up with like, you know what? I want to have a game store. I want to have a geek store. Like, what was that journey for you?
So it came about in a strange way. Genevieve, I'm sorry, but we started to see that there was a 85% drop in people Googling steampunk. So we knew it was time to get out. We were already having secret game nights with customers to become friends after we closed the store. And eventually someone said, you know, I'd rather buy from you than Amazon. So could you just carry some of these? And we were like, okay. And we had just had Will Wheaton model for us. And so he kind of gave the advice of, you know, pretty much everything in this parameter plus magic, you'll be good. And it just started to grow, and I started to roll back on designing new steampunk clothing. And before you know it, we kind of just morphed into a geek store. And we've had to move twice now, each time into a location twice as large as the last. And because I love what people like Bernie do, we added an event space. So now we have room for open mic comedy nights, improv classes. That's where I film my drunken debauchery. We have LARP nights. We do Vampire the Masquerade. Well, did pre-COVID. We'll do it again. And murder mystery nights. So I really love the energy that it brings, that nerd community live, and to give people a place to be.
Yeah.
We're like nerd cheers.
I can't wait till things reopen, because like I lived in Burbank. I've been here about 5 years now, and I swear I didn't learn about your store till like 2 years ago. And I was like, how did I not know about this? And I'm like, now COVID, and I'm like, oh, when things reopen, I will be at your store.
I have to know, did you just drive by the TARDIS? And
Yes,
then
that's exactly what I did.
I imagine
okay,
that's how people find Geeky
I am
Teas.
a massive Whovian. Like, I am a huge Whovian. And I remember, I don't know where, I think I was going to like World in Pinatas or something. And I remember driving by this and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
my fiance and I actually went out because we had a craving for donuts, and there's the donut hut just down the street. And
Mhm.
so we're like, all right, well, we got our donuts. What do we want to do now? And he's like, do you want to go buy Geeky Teas? And it's like, yeah, I do. It was the one day you were closed.
Oh,
no.
sorry.
Fine.
That
It just happened to be, and we're just like, huh. At least there's the TARDIS.
Yeah. Grant
Hang out by that.
Imahara is the person who snuck us the plans to make her. So
I actually have those plans.
do you? Yeah, Grant.
I got a copy. I got a copy from him. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so she's so much more special for that reason, and he had actually had the sign made for her and stuff. So
amazing.
Yeah, but we also have a screen use Dalek inside. So if you're ever in the area again, yeah.
Oh no, I will be in the area pretty soon.
Good.
And Bernie, how did you end up doing the party planning and all of that? I mean, event planning, I should say.
You know, it's like I said, it just looked like it really kind of I wanted these things to exist and they didn't exist. And instead of waiting for someone to create them, I was like, well, why don't I just take a crack at it? And the more I did, I was like, oh, this is how you do this. And, you know, now I'm learning it and figuring it out. And I'm like, okay, so what's the next thing we can do and how can we make this bigger and better? And, you know, I think that I would smartly test different waters and find agreeable locations that worked for both the vision and just something. I think a lot of things that on like the real technical business side of stuff that a lot of people miss in the first step is crawling before you walk. And understanding what kind of nuts and bolts you need on the business side of it financially. So finding contracts that were agreeable in places that, you know, possibly could meet the vision. And, you know, if something couldn't achieve my biggest vision, maybe I take that back a step or two and do what I can there and grow at a reasonable rate. And it, you know, much like Donna mentioned, and having to move into bigger locations, we've moved into bigger venues with more tech in them, and they're more expensive. But you know, we have a plan that we think works, and you know, we can market it, and we can get the amount of people there that makes it a really cool experience. So it was just kind of that stuff, and it was, you know, starting with 300 to 500 person venue, which even when it says that many people, they're never really that big. Not in like real life when you want to actually have reasonable space and not be asked to elbow with someone. And so, because who wants that experience, right? But, you know, again, kind of the mindset is always, what do I want to go to, right? And so I'm not thinking of how can I like make the most amount of money. I'm never going to lose money, but how can I don't have to make like the absolute every cent, but how can I make the experience awesome, right? And is this an experience I would enjoy, or would I go home and complain about it online? And you can never stop that no matter what. Like you have to accept that somebody is going to be disappointed because people are like so intent to be miserable because to some that defines them as complaining online and finding other people to commiserate with. And so you just have to go, whatever with those people. But if I went to this experience, could I walk away and be like, that's pretty awesome, right? And that's kind of like the defining principle of whether or not I'm going to do an event. But you know, crawl before we walk. And so we do smaller venue, not as much scenic kind of ambience, and you know, maybe the talent roster isn't as huge, and then go, okay, well, we brought this many people for this, but if we wanted to get all of those people back, we have to give them something different, and then we're going to attract more people because theoretically they had a great time, they're going to go tell more people, and then what do we do for the first timers, right? And so it's just that kind of a process over and over and over again. There's certain things that I think can fit long term, but then it's always kind of how do we outdo and reinvent. So like I mentioned the 3 themes that we did at Comic-Con, and that was Comic-Con 2019. The previous year we had done just the Ready Player One theme, but Ready Player One's a great catch-all for like everything nerdy, right? And so I kind of feel like that's like a foundational one that I can do anytime, any place. Now we have the Ready Player 2 book out, so it's all topical again. But if you think about the Oasis, right, you can be any character you want to be, and you can go to any place that you've ever wanted to go, right? It's very free form that way. So within that framework, thematically, we could design a different planet within the Oasis. You can come as any character that you happen to have cosplay or Disney bounding for or whatnot. And we want it to be really open like that. Like that's the tough thing with themes is you also want inclusion, and you want people to feel comfortable even if they don't, if you do just straight up Doctor Who, for example, and Doctor Who is great because it crosses a lot of things, but if someone isn't a Doctor Who cosplayer and they don't have, something specific from that, they can still find something period to go to. So I kind of look for stuff that's inclusive like that. So instead of doing, like we did a Guardians of the Galaxy kind of theme, but it was really just kind of space, Marvel space kind of stuff for the third night we did that event. And things like that, and always thinking about how can we include the most amount of people or appeal to the most amount of people, which is another business aspect, right? Like how do you get the most people? What's the most appealing? So it was just trial and error, and it was okay, this was really cool. How do I take that and turn it into what we're doing? And to me right now, obviously we're on hold until stuff is safe. But it's always what is the next big thing? What's coming out? Well, thanks to Disney Investor Day, I have material for years and years. Right? Everyone got a show. That character got a show. That character got a show. They all got shows. So now, it's how do we stay topical, and also how do we create stuff that's reusable? Because from that perspective, business wise, if you're going to invest into building a big prop or some lighting equipment and things like that, how do you get the ROI for it? And not just have a giant storage space that you're spending more money on to store things that you're not really using, so it's a lot of it is how can we get 3, 4, 5 shows worth out of a piece that we build, know?
So Donna, he brings up a good point. I mean, obviously with, Disney making all these announcements, but for you, when you said, we saw steampunk was starting to kind of go by the wayside, we had to pivot. I mean, how have you seen things change over the years, and the trends that you've seen at the store, and where do you see things going in the future? I know it's always hard to predict, but
No, sure. I mean, I remember when D&D was a dirty little secret for girls, right? Like even now I have my brother's D&D books, and they mean that much more to me because I wasn't allowed to touch them, right? My mom was absolutely one of those people of, oh, it's satanic. And so he had to hide them away. So when he was, out playing with his friends, I would look at them. And now we're in this great place where it's not only acceptable to be a geek, it's celebrated even by people who don't get it. And that's just so great to me that it's okay. I've definitely had guys come in the store who, dude bro. And all of a sudden they like totally geek out over something. They're like, oh my God, they have a tiefling, mini. And I'm like, oh,
so cute.
It's so great, and a relief that I know I can talk to them. Yeah,
Right.
There's that much more of a human connection there than what I felt was a very polarizing experience in my youth of a guy walking in like that. Probably wouldn't talk to me. I wouldn't talk to him. It's nice. It's really nice. So where do I see it going?
What happens when you destigmatize everything,
right? And also, hire a lot of hot actors to play those characters and make but
helps.
I mean, there's that. I see it becoming more inclusive. There are now over 100 new board games that come out every month. and that can be overwhelming, but there's a reason it's growing. This is the new golden age of board games, and it's helping people connect again on another level, because we did have in-store play, and people would come in with their own friends, or they would make friends here. And so we're removing that computer screen, right? We're talking in person and playing a game, and it's just so beautiful. So I'm hoping it's what is going to connect us all again.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because, you have not just the, the retail side of things, but you have, the gaming, the community side of things. Was that always something that you wanted to have a part of it? I mean, it sounds like the two have always been together, right? And it seems like a lot of game stores are like that in general, but
yes. I mean, I feel like the social aspect begat the board game store. I really wanted a sense of community. Back at Clockwork, we had craft fairs and other things. And again, the secret game nights after the store closed. So I wanted to just grow that. I could sell widgets for all I care. I'm still going to play board games, and I want to grow a community more than anything else.
I like that. And Bernie, it sounds like it's kind of similar with you, that it's, you're doing great, amazing parties, but it really is a lot of like community building and having a safe space for people to connect.
Absolutely. And I mean, and there's other stuff too. And we've done some activations like brand launches and things like that. But I like the fun certainly is in the nightlife, and in bringing that experience, because, like I said, up until recent times and, up until Comic-Con of the last, 6 or so years, like we didn't really have that. And even for those of us in SoCal, like Comic-Cons and all the time thing, but for people in other markets, like, it's not the same. And it's sometimes we forget that, right? In LA, we have all these things to do. We have a con within driving distance every month. We have different, brands that are doing things. Like, we're spoiled here. But elsewhere, they have like their 1 or 2 cons a year. And then they don't have all the ancillary stuff, and no big brand is doing, launch parties and stuff in Topeka. Like, and my apologies to the folks in Topeka. But my goal eventually for us is that we can show up and, probably piggyback on conventions at first, because that's where you're going to find the base. And then in off-cycle times, go in and give them some new gathering point, a communal gathering point. And whether that looks like, a nightclub or a concert, or just some kind of activation event, but give them, a limited time experience that we go in and set up for, a day, 2 days, a week, whatever it turns out to be, but give them another thing to do in a place where they don't have all that we have down here. So that's that's one of the things on the horizon as stuff gets back into normality later.
Yeah.
All right, people of Topeka, you've heard it here first. Franchise opportunities. The Geek Gatsby, contact him, obviously, and let's get things going.
Get the ball rolling on that.
That's right.
So, I mean, you both have your own businesses, but Donna, you're brick and mortar. Bernie, you are pop-up and events. How have you kind of navigated around this whole COVID thing? I know, Donna, the store is open now. Yep. Bernie, I know you've done some online, you've popped up here and there doing some online stuff for the streamed conventions. But what you both have in common is that you really do have this great this great opportunity to bring people together, and you guys really are what we need right now as a community, as a geek community. How have you been able to continue to keep your presence going for the people like us who depend on y'all bringing the communities together?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Donna.
Okay. I was going to defer to you, Bernie, but we were very fortunate that we have extremely loyal customers, because we've been so part of the community. So putting things online was easy enough. We weren't closed long here. Retail opened up, I think 5 or 6 weeks after the first shutdown. So we've been operating under that capacity, and yeah, we've just kind of taken things online. We were doing curbside cosplay for a while. I would, I would get dressed up in different outfits for curbside delivery when we couldn't have in store. Yeah.
That's amazing.
It was a lot of fun.
Great.
It's because I miss going to club cosplay. I had to do something, right, with my wardrobe. So
that's like my D&D
opportunities.
Yeah, it's like my D&D streaming has been where I cosplay now. It's like I just get dressed up for streams.
I love that. Yeah, so just trying to keep everybody in and happy, and very active on social media to make sure we all still feel a connection. And yeah, you can always tell the difference between my posts and my business partners, because he's like, here's the new game out, and I'm like, hey, look, I dressed up Mr. President like from Cyberpunk 2077, and we are gonna fuck around today. Like, very different approaches.
Complimentary. Bernie, what about you?
I think for what the virtual convention experience is has a lot of complications, right? And so I kind of had the idea, everyone kind of thought of it all around, mid-March, and we're like, all these things are canceled, let's do a big online thing. So a bunch of different groups had it. We did virtual Pop Expo, which was the first one to have a true interactive shopping experience. Because for me, the goal was like, my timeline is just flooded with all of these amazing vendors that their entire year's income is the convention circuit. And it was just blown out. A group that got C2E2 or one of the other events that was in the first quarter of 2020. So it was about how do we drive traffic to an online marketplace, and we partnered with this group that created a virtual shopping experience. Like, we had a virtual convention floor, and you could print booths, and those vendors were live to talk to you, and they could like side and upsell and add on and all this other stuff, and created that kind of a marketplace. But I will say, holy cow, to do that and to do it the right way was such a tremendous undertaking. And even though everyone is sitting at home with, F all to do besides binging stuff, it's still not the same experience as much as you try and make it that. And that was a ton of effort for not really enough payoff. And I know that some groups have gone and they've monetized it for the celebrities that they're bringing in to do panels and then like video meet and greets. And I think that's cool for the people that want to have that experience and do those video meet and greets. But it wasn't conventions the way that I love them. And I think that's representative of a lot of people's views. So we didn't really want to keep going down the route. And there's ways to do it, but I got to tell you, it's so much effort over such a period of time that I would consider maybe 1 or 2 in a year. I didn't want to be doing it every month. It would be killer. But I've been focusing on some kind of what we're doing here, podcast shows. I host a show with Dan Fogler from Fantastic Beasts and Fanboys. And it's the 4D experience. So Dan will bring on celebrity friends and stuff from the different stuff that he works on. But we'll also have cosplay contests during it. And it's very like we can get questions in from the crowd. So it feels like you're in a panel room at a con, and it's not just like Dan doing his thing, but like, he's like, hey, what's going on over in the crowd thing? So make it more involved. So we've been doing that, but that is building up to kind of sort of a hybrid of the two things. So we're going to do Fogler's Fiction Fest in January on the 16th and 17th. The actual promo stuff will launch sometime in the next week. But it's going to be 2 days straight of streaming with so many people. I mean, just huge names from the Harry Potter franchise, huge names from Star Wars, from all sorts of, from Walking Dead and all sorts of other fun stuff. That is going to hopefully build into an in-person event as soon as we can get back to doing that. So we'll do the first one online, and then we'll start planning the first in person. And so that may become a series of Fogler's Fiction Fests kind of all over the place. So there's, keeping people connected. But I think one thing that's probably important to say is that the same stuff that everyone's going through at home, we're going through it too, right? Like I'll always put on the big grandiose, hey, the Geek Gatsby. But the truth is this shit is hard, right? Like getting through what we're dealing with now is really hard. And there's days where it's like, I haven't posted on my Instagram in like 2 weeks. Like I'm not keeping it up, I'm just like, it is definitely a challenge, and we're all facing it, and we're all kind of making our way through it. And I think that the only way to come out of the other end positive is to keep connected, right? And so it's just a matter of keeping in touch and doing anything, just talking with people, just doing these, just doing Facebook Lives and seeing who comes in, and all that kind of stuff to stay social, because we're all going to face emotional and social kind of I don't know quite what the word is, but it's going to be interesting when we're allowed to get together. It's going to be kind of slow growing.
I know. I keep wondering. I'm like, I feel like we will have San Diego Comic-Con next year, but I'm really wondering what it's going to be like. Because
me too, as I have to commit to a venue soon.
Yeah, I want to know what the social landscape is going to be like once we're allowed to see everybody again.
Vaccination, I don't
know. Gonna.
Oh, yeah.
Our social bubble is going to be
side. Fauci the other day said that they anticipate herd immunity by late spring, early summer.
That's what I heard.
So at least, fingers crossed that San Diego can go off in, even if it's only a 50% capacity, which I imagine it'll probably be more than that, or as much as they can allow for whatever the CDC guidelines are at the time. But even if it's 50% capacity, then we're still talking about a crazy, awesome, big ass event. It's, like circa 2002 Comic-Con before that Twihard explosion. But I was there. That was fun. I'll do that. That's great.
Yeah.
And then maybe by fourth quarter, we'll have stuff like LA Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con that are already scheduled for that. The problem though, is that all of the people that can't do their shows in the first half of the year are going to jam pack everything into the last quarter and a half.
Yeah.
And it's going to be
Christmas Con
that would travel to a bunch of them. Yeah. Like that's not going to be a thing. It's going to be pick one of like 5 events you want to do on any given weekend.
And Thanksgiving Con, get your turkey cosplays out. Christmas Con,
right?
Everybody's cosplay is going to be like Christmas /holiday /Hanukkah themed. They're just like, I'm the Hanukkah themed Deadpool. I can see it now.
On the cosplay front, can we just a moment of silence for an entire year of missed out Tiger King cosplay?
This is okay. That would have been the cosplay of the year.
Tiger King,
Umbrella would have made another.
Oh yeah, because every year it's a new. Yeah, it's usually because every year at Comic-Con it's like, oh yeah, that's the movie that just came out.
Right.
Like, remember when Deadpool came out? It was literally nothing but Deadpools.
That's Deadpool and Harley Quinn is like
the Deadpool year, the Harley Quinn year.
That has forever been like the most cosplayed out cosplay of all of cosplay.
Oh, I always hide from Deadpool cosplayers because everybody has a comedy routine, and most of the time it's just like, I just don't want to do it. I don't want to go. Like, I know you probably worked hard on this, but I just need to escape it because I can't.
Donna, there you go. You book an open mic Deadpool night at Geeky Teas. Or it's okay. So we have to more inclusion, right? Black and red, Deadpool and Harley Quinn.
Oh no, the amount of gender bending Deadpools that I've seen at Comic-Con are amazing. Yeah.
So, Deadpool, Lady Deadpool, Gwenpool.
Yeah.
Gwenpool. There's so many. I'm missing like 20 other pools in there, but
Yeah,
there's a lot. I got distracted by Kitty Tail.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. President, the shop cat.
Yes,
he's-
That's okay.
let's
My cat always joins us.
let's actually, Donna, talk a little bit about the kitties for a minute, because not everybody on watching is going to know that you've got kitties in the store.
I
Yeah.
did not mention that. Yeah, so yeah, I'm also animal rescue Barbie. So I have an in-store cat rescue called Geeky Teas, a little play on Geeky Teas. And to date, it started at Clockwork. It was Clockwork Cat Tour because I love a good pun. And so far it's been, I think, over 500 cats. There's a horse. We have hedgehog, squirrels, raccoon. We have rescued a lot of animals, probably only a dozen dogs because they do have to stay here in the store, and dogs are not exactly the, make sure it has food and water and let it be in a store overnight type animals. But neither is the horse. And I got to be honest, that was messy. I live next to the equestrian center, luckily, so he went there. Gus, the Wonder Horse. But yeah, that's
Gus.
fun because I got him when we had Clockwork, and my accountant was like, "What is this $450 charge every month?" And I was like, "It's storage for one of our photo props." And he's like, "Photo prop?" And I'm like, "Yep." And so every collection that we did for the last part of Clockwork had a Western theme because Gus had to be in the photos. Oh, hold on.
Yes.
So,
Gosh.
let's see if you can actually see this.
Aww.
Wheaton and Colin Ferguson. There's Will's wife, Anne, Doug Jones, and Ashley Clements was one of our big photo shoots near the end, and Gus the Wonder Horse. So,
Oh, I love that.
he was.
what?
And we got to write him off.
That's so cute. So, are people still allowed to come in and check out what little critters you have for adoption?
Yeah, we're at 20% capacity of our normal retail, so there's still room for people to come in. And we have 4 kittens for adoption. They actually all happen to be younger siblings of our in-store shop cat, Mr. President, because they have not been able to catch his mom to have her spayed yet, and it's been many years, so she just keeps having litters. So currently in store, we have Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Purr. We have George Poshington and Barack Obama. So
I want Barack.
we have 4 kittens right now.
Oh my
boys,
gosh.
all Mr. President.
If my 2 cats would not hate me for bringing another cat into the house, yeah.
Yeah, I saw you have an orange cat. They're pretty bossy.
I have a black and white one who wants nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, Mr. President's a tuxedo. Yeah, he's pretty bossy.
We have a black Maine Coon that's pretty. His name's Wolfgang, and he just wants to be alone. He's very possessive of his owners, so I would love Barack.
Yeah.
He's
but
pretty great.
Unfortunately,
I miss having cats, but I don't miss the litter box.
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, that's probably the worst. Wolfgang's pretty good, pretty clean with his litter box, but I have had cats
Oh yeah.
that not so much.
Yeah.
So to both of you, what do you have any advice you would give to people who might be interested into, I don't know, either starting a game store or getting into event planning or doing some sort of geeky business? We've had episodes before about, turning your passion into a business, but so I'm always really interested to hear people who have done that and, if they have thoughts or suggestions.
You want to go first on this one, Bree?
Go for it.
Oh, okay.
Unless you
So,
want time to guy,
oh,
I
okay.
can talk forever.
Oh, okay.
Give us the 10 steps to success.
Right.
You know, I mean, when it comes to a board game store, someone once told me that in order to make $1 million running a board game store, you start with 2.
That's good.
They weren't wrong. I would tell people the advice exactly what Bernie had mentioned earlier is to grow slowly and organically. I started Clockwork with $500 that was in my savings and my garage. And it grew to a company that was doing over $1 million in sales per year. Man, do I miss that job. I miss the money. So, you know, that was a very gradual growth over a 7-year period. And I only put into the company what it made after the initial investment. Not everyone's going to have quite that benefit. I'm sure, Bernie, because you do events, it's very up and down. It's very, you may only have to put in a little bit one month and make a bunch, whereas another month, because of whatever, you're putting in far more than maybe you had in the past. But yeah, just grow your community.
Well,
be
so
kind
on
to
that
people.
point, you get into a position from an advertising perspective, where even you have to pay for advertising thanks to Zuck. So, you know, you end up, you're not just flying out, right? Like, so the first year that we did Ready Party One, it was really kind of an afterthought. We were offered a really great deal from the venue. I'd wanted to get into, but Nerdist kept taking it. And I was a little further up in the gas lamp area. So I always did a Thursday night party, and I was happy to compete against them, but do a different. And the venue offered us a Wednesday night party. I'm like, nobody does a Comic-Con Wednesday night party. Why would I do that? And then I thought about it for a second. And I'm like, actually, nobody does it because they don't bring their talent in until Thursday and Friday so that they can cheap out driving them from LA, getting them one night stay and getting them for 2 days worth of stuff. And then they build everything around whatever they're announcing, releasing, and who they have for talent. I don't need that because I'm for fans by fans. And there's, you know, 100,000 people in town on Wednesday night with nothing to do. Why am I not doing a Wednesday party? So I did one, but it was like the most minimal guarantee, and the venue was awesome. And we didn't have to build a lot of stuff for it. So we went really light that time. And once we announced the tickets, like they were sold out in a week and a half for 1,000 tickets. And they were also like really low price because I didn't know what it would be like. And it was an experiment. So, you know, probably in the hindsight, I lost money because I could have charged way more for but it was a, you know, smashing success, and I didn't have to put much into it. Then do Wednesday night, add people to stay all 3 nights, or get new people to come in and advertise to different people. Then you have to pay more. And, you know, one night might sell out, one night you got to start dumping more into advertising and more into the build because people expect more, and it just grows that way.
Wow. That's, yeah.
Yeah, I think I went to last year. I think I went to last year's Wednesday party for Comic-Con, I think, or maybe it was 2 years ago. I don't know. Steve took me. It was fun. So
we repeated So Ready Party One started in 2018, and that was the year that the film came out. So it was perfectly topical. And then I was also doing that Rufio party on Thursday night, and then the Ready Party One was such a huge success. It was also my first outing with the team that is now XLE. And that was kind of, we'd all worked together on separate things. I'd worked with Nerdbot on stuff. I'd worked with Damn Good Shindig on stuff. The Flux Capacitors, I think, are pound for pound the best tribute band in the country. And it was like, how do we bring this all together for Comic-Con? And when the venue called with the Wednesday thing, and I'm like, huh? But it was so cheap. Like, I would be silly not to try it. Like,
Right.
Even if it was a break-even event, it was totally worth doing. And anything you do in San Diego at Comic-Con, like the value is in exposure alone and in the press that you can get down there. Like if you break even, you won, but we crushed in that first year. And then we're like, okay, great. We're going to keep doing Wednesday. We already have a recipe for Thursday. Let's add Friday now. And now we do like, I mean, we in the total revenue generated by our 3 events at that venue. This isn't revenue that we made, but the total revenue generated was over $250,000 in 3 days. So clearly big potential. And so how do we go about doing that bigger and better, and maybe other venues, because we've already reached in year 2 of that event series, that, you know, it's like we have to take another step. But problem with San Diego is there's only 2 venues in between the 1,000-person capacity that we have at Flux Nightclub versus the 3,000 capacity at the Omnia, and their incredibly outrageous pricing. And so there isn't really a middle ground, and the only medium is that House of Blues that's like 1,600 people, but that is like an old House of Blues. So we would have to do a lot to build it up, and we might do that. We've talked with them, and we've talked with Omnia, and we've talked with some big sponsors about, we were going to have a very notable hip hop artist had 2020 happened. And hopefully we can get that guy on board and that sponsor on board for this coming year. But San Diego, do you guys remember the Hella Mega Tour announced, and they were going to be at Comic-Con? In San Diego?
I had
Comic-Con
tickets
week?
to the Hella Mega Tour. I was so excited. And I was like,
so not only was there that, but 2 days before that, in the same freaking place at Petco Park during Comic-Con, was that Motley Crue, Def Leppard, and Rat tour. So like you have this 80s metal tour, this like 2000s, you know, thing going, and like all of like what a goddamn nightmare.
Well, it's
right?
rescheduled for next year for the same weekend. Like it's scheduled for Comic-Con weekend 2021. So
So if I want to do a Friday night event up against Hella Mega, I'm going to go the other direction and go hip hop.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The Hella. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Donna.
Oh, I was just going to say, back to the question, Bernie, you actually had a lot of great advice in there, because you were mentioning what advice would you give someone who wanted to get into a geek business? Bernie mentioned, I think, 2 very important things. One is that nobody else was doing Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
So do Wednesday nights. Anything that you can do that makes you different, makes you special.
Yes.
Yep.
And by fans for fans. Don't do anything that you are insincere about. And I had mentioned before, I could be selling widgets because my love is the community. It wasn't until I brought my business partner, Eric, on, who genuinely loves board games. And I mean, I love playing them, but he's the person who's like, yeah, so I did the research on this one, and, you know, interest has been building on it, and this is who's doing it. So we're going to go ahead and back this at a retailer level or whatnot. And he's the person, I think, he made me a board game store. I make us a community space. So we work really well together, but don't do anything insincere when it comes to, don't just think, well, I'm just going to make a nerd business because this dungeoning and dragoning thing is big now. Like, you do need to love what you do, and you need to have your heart in it, because
and the community can sniff it out when you're disingenuous.
Right. More than anyone, a geek will sniff you out and know that you don't really love what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. I don't think there's any intentional gatekeeping here, but certainly it shows. And we're so good at reading, I think, faces and inflection at this point, because I know myself, again, I'm older than all of you, but I still grew up in a time where, you know, you would absolutely have gotten your ass kicked for any of this stuff. So I got really good at reading expressions and body language, and I can tell when you're just blowing smoke up my ass. Yeah. I got real good at that. And so, yeah.
I think back to the question, a couple of points of advice I want to give out. The first thing is, start when you're young and take chances. All right. The time to live off of ramen is your 20s. Do it. Like that's when you take a risk and get into stuff, and you can rebound. Too many people wait too long. Like, I love what I'm doing now. I wish I was doing it 10 years earlier. Right. And so if you want to be a VO actor, if you want to be a host, if you want to be an event, whatever you want to do, like take those risks early. You always have a chance to reinvent yourself if you find that it's just not in your competency, and do that stuff like super young, right? Another thing that's on the less positive note but is good advice is well, you could the nice way of saying it is trust but verify. The other way of saying it is don't trust anybody, right? Don't take anybody's word for it. Assume that you're going to have to do everything yourself, but try and find people to share the load, because you'll never be successful if you're the only person on your team, or if you're doing the bulk of the work. You're going to overload yourself and burn out. That said, you have to build that trust, right? You have to find people that pieces that fit, right? And so much the same way Donna was mentioning that her partner does it is like the board game expert. She's the community person, and that's a great pair, right? You have to find the people that balance you, not that are just like you. You need other, right? Other than what you bring to the table. So look for those people, and then figure out the ways that you can gain experience to trust them. But in the beginning, just always, double check everything. Don't take someone's word for it, even if it's stuff that you're scared of, right? I think a lot of us are scared of the legal nuts and bolts, other stuff. You just got to do some reading through that, because if you don't do that stuff, you will get screwed at some point. And so you gotta take that leap.
Yeah. So real quick, we just have a couple minutes left. Donna, where do you see your future being? Like, do you have big plans for the future? Where do you see the store next? Where do you see you next? What is next?
I feel like I want to talk to Bernie after this. I really want to grow the events that we've always done, because that is making me so happy to bring people together to a place where they can share and connect and have a good time, and give people a safe place to be who they are and to have a good time. And so I want to do more events and just in-person stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I will be spending a good amount of time, I think, working on my my mental health charity. And I guess I know you're quick. So last thing, Bernie was so right. Take chances when you're young. Don't be afraid, though, when you're older, to still do it.
Yep.
No, because I am almost 50. I said I was older than all of you, and I mean it. And I just started my board game show. And, everyone wants to look at pretty people, especially in Los Angeles. And I'm not going to have that much longer without copious amounts of makeup. But I'm still going to do the board game show while I can, and while my liver will let me, because it's a drinking show.
Yeah. And Bernie, for you, what is on the horizon? What big plans do you have?
The Fogler's Fiction Fest is the biggest thing that's calendared, but the kind of dream board, if you will, or out there. It's just reestablishing what we did. We had so much momentum that it was such a gut punch to not have stuff right now, and building. Anyone can go to all of the studio driven parties and stuff, and we'd love to do that for the studios at some point. But I think they got so much more out of what we did without having studio dollars and studio talent backing us. And I was really proud of that. So getting back to that is step one, and having something normal in 21 to springboard from. And I think that's kind of, I'm looking at 21 as if we can just do break even stuff that reestablishes the brand presence. That's the first goal. And then 22 would be a more aggressive goal of getting back to where we were. There was so much cool stuff going to happen this year. Oh my God.
Oh, trust me. I starred a major animated series that dropped this year. Like, the season 1 dropped in July, and we all had plans for Comic-Con, and then it was like COVID, and we're like, and there went my career.
I mean, we were in talks to do some stuff with Reed Pop that would have been really, really, really cool. Friggin' I'll name drop it. Snoop. I was gonna have Snoop. That would have been amazing. So I think getting back to that, and then the stuff that we were going to do this year has got to be the 22 goal, right? Yeah. So next year, just hit a couple of tent poles stuff where we know we can knock it out, and we've already got whether it's just we already have assets in the tank ready to go. and reestablish. And then 22 is the, the next expansion. So that's what's coming up. And in the meantime, it's just a lot of relationship building. I think a lot of people don't realize that. I guess that's another great thing. Like, build and nurture relationships from the get, not like do it genuinely, right? Just because you want to know other people like you that have similar interests, but also think about that from the business perspective, and keep positive influences around people that elevate you up, and don't be afraid to cut out people that bring you down.
Yep.
Right.
That is
And
100%.
that's healthy just in general, but it's an amazing business practice. And, I find like so many people that I used to know from another life with other focuses that are getting into these entertainment-y, nerdy things now. And I was always the nerd. I was the one in the quad with the Star Wars tech manual and the Star Trek character guides hidden inside my global sciences book or whatever. Like, that was me. And most of these other people eventually admitted it later. But now everyone's kind of coming to play because we've become mainstream. My favorite phrase, the geek have inherited the earth. But nurture those relationships. You never know when something's going to pay off for you. And I've had a lot of that just happen accidentally. If you treat people well, they will treat you well, and that will eventually, without even planning for something to happen or relying on something to happen, it will just magically happen.
Well, thank you guys both for joining.
Yes,
Everybody in the
thank
chat,
you.
please follow them on social media, show them some love. Check out the Geeky Teas store. You can buy stuff online and stay up to date with everything that both of them are doing. Thank you guys so much.
Yes, thank you.
And so please stay tuned. At 6:30, we will be back here with the Realms of Ukador. So go to the bathroom, get something to eat. And then Saturday, we have the next episode of Vault 42. And then we are dark for a week, guys. So there will be no rollout next week, but we will be back again on the 30th. So
yes, and we have a raffle.
Yes.
We have raffle. All right, we have another raffle. And guess what? Just like guest is the password, raffle is the password for raffle. So type in raffle in the chat, and make sure to stay to the beginnings of the realms of Ugador, where the winner will be announced. So again, just to enter, type in raffle in the chat, and you are good to go.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys again. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Bernie.
Thank you.
You were amazing.
Yes, thank
Pleasure.
you so much for joining us.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for having us, guys.